Right, well, in this little video here, I hope to just talk about what it's like to be on Sydney Harbour for New Year's Eve, where you can try and get the best spots and maybe some benefits and drawbacks of each of those spots on Sydney Harbour. One of the probably most iconic positions for New Year's Eve is to be stationed right next to the Opera House in a little cove called Farm Cove. Now Farm Cove starts, people start anchoring in Farm Cove a good maybe even 2 or 3 days before the actual New Year's Eve. Now as a consequence, Farm Cove also gets very busy. So the positives of Farm Cove are that you are right under the fireworks, which is obviously a great position there. But of course then if you've got little kids, or a dog, then that's not such a good thing because they're going to get scared from the loud thunder of the fireworks. Also, a drawback of Farm Cove is if you suffer from anchor claustrophobia, when other people anchor too close to you, if you're a little bit worried about your boat getting scratched and stuff, then definitely Farm Cove is definitely not the spot to be as well. And it's the best position, but it's also the riskiest position. The other common option for New Year's Eve on Sydney Harbour is Atoll Bay. Atoll Bay is just behind us over there. A bit hard possibly to see with the sun, but it's a common option because it's got a good view of the Sydney Harbour Bridge and the Opera House. It's a bit further away than Farm Cove, but it does back onto a nice little sandy beach. So while if you're getting a position, 1 or 2 days in advance, or you're there for 24, 48 hours, then you've got that little sandy beach where you can actually go ashore, of course, and the kids can go and play and those sort of things. So the problem is Atoll Bay, of course, is protected from the northeasterly wind, but it's not so much protected from the southerly. And as we saw the other night, when the southerly blows in and everyone has to reposition and reset anchors and those sort of things, then that can cause mayhem. But yeah, Atoll Bay is certainly an option if that's what you're thinking. I just got wet. Sand's driving. The next couple of options we have is Mossman Bay and Neutral Bay. So they are exposed bays, so you're sitting out in the middle of the harbour, which is not too much of a problem if you have a decent sized boat. You're not going to be in Mossman or Neutral Bay like a day in advance. It's this type of thing where you're only going to be going out and anchoring out there, say, after the exclusion period, after sort of 3 p.m. when everyone has to shut down to 6 knots. So let me try and run you through what happens generally on New Year's Eve in Sydney Harbour. So of course everyone starts taking their positions and their moorings, as I said, the day before. On the actual day of New Year's Eve, on the 31st, from 3 p.m. there is an exclusion zone that is set up, and the maximum speed that you can travel through the exclusion zone is 6 knots from 3 p.m. onwards. When it gets to 8 p.m. you can't travel through the exclusion zone at all, so you definitely must have taken your position by 8 p.m. Now, while everyone is waiting for that in the afternoons, there's a few ceremonies which of course you can't really see if you're out in a boat, but at around 8 p.m. there is this year at 8 p.m. there is a flying display. So Matt Hall Racing from the Red Bull Air Race fame came down and did an excellent show there. Matt's actually an ex F-18 fighter pilot from Newcastle, and he really showed his talents there across the harbour. At 9 p.m. there's the family fireworks. The family fireworks are not as big as the 12 p.m. of course, but they are an option, of course, to let the kids see some fireworks on the harbour before, of course, heading to bed. There's then a lights display where a number of ferries with colourful lights on that, they simply just drive around the exclusion zone, and so they provide you with something to look at during that period of time up until 12 p.m. At 12 p.m, of course, that's when the fireworks hit. Now there's multiple barges across the harbour from the east through to the west, but of course the main important, or the main visual aesthetic that you want to have is of course the Opera House and the Harbour Bridge. So most people try to position themselves so that they can see those things. Now of course with the Opera House being on the east side of the bridge, that means that most of the spectator craft are going to try and be on the east side of the bridge. So if you've ever thought about coming to New Year's Eve and you don't have a boat, Or if you're, let's say you're a free camper. If you're touring Australia, maybe you've got your wicked camper and you're not allowed to camp anywhere in Sydney, of course. When it comes to New Year's Eve, some people camp out at these type of spots like a week, almost from Christmas Day onwards. So if you're a camper coming around Australia, you could almost come and just set up that week earlier and just say that you're waiting out for the best spot for New Year's Eve. If you are at the other end of the scale and you have a super yacht, there is a designated anchoring spot on the eastern side of the harbour. So at least you can be surrounded by professional skippers, given that you're in a multi-million-dollar yacht.
Don't trade it later.
Before New Year's, I'm sure you could position yourself in Neutral Bay, and once New Year's is over, you can move your super yacht into Farm Cove so that your guests can really absorb the sights of the Opera House and the Harbour Bridge. I haven't gone into much detail about the west side of the bridge, but Berries Bay looks like a good option. Of course, you could always use a kayak to get out on the harbour. Just make sure it's well lit, you have a life jacket on, and that you haven't drunk too much alcohol. The conditions this night did claim the life of a New Year's Eve kayaker, but it was an hour's drive north of Sydney Harbour in the Central Coast, so just be careful. Alright, well, here we are. We're still in Little Sirius Cove. It's about 20 past 6 on New Year's Eve 2019, going 2020. You can see that the southerly has just hit, and it would be absolute mayhem out there in Atoll Bay. You want to hear the wind?
We are at Atoll Bay, just in the corner near the beach. Vessel is adrift trying to regain control. I think he's hooked up a few anchors.
We have a boat broken mooring without power north of Apple Beach. We got someone broken their mooring northeast to northeast on Apple Beach. Apple Beach, over.
The map I've been referring to is from the Roads and Maritime Service of New South Wales, or RMS. It and the accompanying information should be reviewed by the skipper before laying anchor for New Year's Eve. That brings me to the end of New Year's Eve on Sydney Harbour. I'm sure I've missed out a few tips, so please feel free to leave your suggestions in the comments section below. If you like what you have seen, then please subscribe to our channel and check out some other videos that we have made. Happy New Year, Cooper! Happy New Year, Campbell! Happy New Year, Mummy!
Yeah. Look at that.
It will. Just go to your earmuffs, buddy.
Yeah.
Get your earmuffs, put your earmuffs on. It's going to become very loud. Just... Whoa. Don't forget to take photos, Mummy. Campbell,